You're listening to Bring Me the Axe. I'm Brian White, one half of this morbid equation. I'm joined by my co-host and actual brother, Dave White. Dave, how you doing?
Hello.
Yes, it's a somber occasion. Did you notice what I did there at the very beginning, though?
I did. I liked that.
Right. New name. Yep. This is the first show where we're actually doing that. So we are formerly Brothers Grimm. We're Bring Me the Axe. It's just a better name.
And it reminds me of Faye Dunaway every time.
You got to have a daily reminder of the time Faye Dunaway played Joan Crawford.
Remember that time Faye Dunaway was a total lunatic? I mean, I guess that's kind of every day when you're Faye Dunaway, but...
Yep. So we practically grew up in neighborhood video stores, and the steady diet of utter garbage that those shops provided us with continues unabated to this day, and there's no one else I enjoy chopping it up with about trashy movies more than Dave. And so just before we get into it, here's a little housekeeping. If you want to keep up with us between episodes, you can also find us pretty much on all the socials by just searching Bring Me the Axe Horror Podcast. We've also got a sweet website now at bringmetheaxe.com. You can listen to all of our past shows there and read the transcripts. You can also contact us directly at bringmetheaxepod@gmail.com with any questions, comments, or suggestions. Do let us know if there's a movie that you love and would like to hear us give it the business. And lastly, if you like what you hear, you can subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts, and you'd be doing us a favor by leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. Just wanted to get all that out of the way right at the top of the show.
So, let's fucking tell people about it. Come on.
Yeah, I know. I mean, Jesus Christ. We got a big bump recently, and so I know a lot of you are listening, so fucking tell your friends. So, tonight's movie. Let me give you a taste.
Many strange things happen around here.
There is a tale.
It was a night like tonight, many years ago.
There is a legend.
If you say his name above a whisper, he'll get you.
There is a warning.
On certain nights, when the moon is full, he's out there stalking in the woods.
There is a madman.
His name is Marz. Madman Marz.
Marz! Madman Marz! Here we are! Come and get us, Madman!
Don't you realize you're fooling with things beyond your control?
No escape.
There is no escape. Yep, tonight's movie is Madman. So a warning before we get rolling. We're basically going to talk about this movie from beginning to end, so spoilers to follow. Some facts about this, as usual. The year was 1981.
Yeah, that's a good year.
Yep, and some other movies released that year were Demonoid, Absurd, which I just recently watched. Yeah. I don't know if anybody really knew what they were doing. They just had George Eastman for a weekend. It's not a good movie.
It's just how you're gonna get George Eastman.
Probably, yeah. Also, Final Exam came out that year. Go back and check out our Final Exam episode. Just Before Dawn also came out in 81.
One of the coolest endings.
And I was not prepared for. Nope. Also, Scanners with Cronenberg, and lastly, Porno Holocaust.
Oh, yeah.
Which I've never actually seen it. I love the name. That's about as much of that movie as I want to take in, though.
Do you know what it's part of that genre? It's not a genre. It's like a subgenre of like softcore, somewhere between hardcore and softcore porn and horror.
Yeah.
Which is like Here are two great tastes that do not taste great.
No. That's not something. It's like putting like clam chowder in a bowl of cornflakes together. You know, it's like yeah. I don't know. Anybody who's into that, I find them sus. Not my scene.
Yeah.
No.
Great score to that movie though by Nico Fidenko.
Oh yeah. Not bad. I know. Was it Mike Patton has an album? I believe it's called Porno Holocaust. It's one of those ones where it's just him screaming into a microphone,
shrieking and banging on a suitcase.
yeah. So cast and crew. This is rather anemic, as we're gonna discover here. The director is a guy named Joe Giannone, who, to the best of my understanding, made this movie and this movie only. He had a second AD credit on some other movie that I can't remember the name of, and that's it. And then the dude just vanished. No idea where he is today. Did they cover it in any of the extras?
He's dead.
Oh.
Died in like 2006.
Oh, well, okay. I mean, I thought you meant like the explanation was he died in the 80s, and that's why we never got any more from him. No, this is a Joe Giannone and like a Gary Sales production, and it seems like Gary
Sales first AD on From Justin to Kelly.
No shit.
Yeah.
Huh. Because I looked him up and
that guy's got a weird career.
Yeah, he's got a bunch of producer credits, but like a lot of the people involved in this movie, it's their very first professional credit that's on IMDb, and then it's either their last credit or there's like a 15-year gap or 20-year gap before they were working again. And they all
it turns out a lot of them actually weren't actors.
Really? Well, I mean, that's kind of easy to tell with some of them, but
so the guy who plays Madman Marz, he was a
graphic designer.
Yeah, he was like doing the poster art, like for the one sheet, and I guess his version of the story is like he was trying to describe to them what the killer would be doing, and they were like, well, why don't you just play the killer? Like, you're giant and menacing. And it's like, okay, well, it's not charming, but
yeah.
So he did. And the guy who plays Dippy.
Yes.
Fucking Dippy. That guy is
is he like a
special effects?
Oh, no shit. Okay. So this explains Dippy a little bit. Cause
he's like a puppeteer.
Yeah. I was going to say, like, if you told me he went to clown college, I would have totally understood.
And like, I watched a bunch of the bonus features on the Vinegar Syndrome UHD release.
Yeah.
And Dippy, if you showed me a picture of this guy and gave me no context, I'd be like, that guy makes puppets for a living. Like he is looking ragged, and he's like in a barn in Vermont.
Yeah.
Like, I know lots of people like you, and they all make puppets.
Yeah. So that's Paul Ehlers is the guy who plays Madman Marz, and as we said, he was a designer. He's working on promo materials for the movie. Yeah, he's a big guy. He's got some athleticism to him. So they were like, hey, why don't you play the killer? It's a suit that they put on him, which is a really weird touch to me.
It's not even really a suit.
No, it's hands,
feet, a mask, and feet.
Yeah. Yeah, it's such a weird detail.
And it's so obvious. Like, again, I'm watching this in 4K, so maybe it looks better, in 35 millimeter or whatever, but like whatever it was shot in, but it is so obvious that these are rubber hands and feet.
Yeah, I think that for a lot of these movies, the move to home video like really did them a lot of favors, because like a crappy special effect will look significantly less crappy when it's moved over to like NTSC video standard, or like any of that PAL or any of the other ones, because it gets all fucking muddy. And even like the good VHS tapes, or like the very first generations that came on quality tapes and were sourced from quality materials, they still have a certain look about them. So like, I'm sure that the fact that almost this entire movie, there isn't a single shot in the day. When Marz shows up, he's always sort of like concealed in shadow. So it must have looked blurry and murky and shitty. So like, it wasn't until like high def video formats came along that we were like, oh, okay, so that's like he's wearing like foot boots.
Yeah, like Fred Flintstone fucking rubber feet.
Yep.
And like an amazing Party City fright wig.
We'll get to him because I got notes about his appearance. There's a thing about Madman Marz that I think is very unique to this movie.
He is utterly charming.
He's He's something. So also Gaylen Ross from from Dawn of the Dead. This is her second feature, I believe, and she's acting under a pseudonym, Alexis Dubin. In the movie, and then the reason for this, she's actually one of 3 people in the movie who are acting under a pseudonym. And the reason is that the movie was non-union, so SAG actors were like barred from acting in it. And I guarantee that like she needed some work and was like, fuck it. Like, I don't care about the credit. I'll just take the money and use a different name or something. But it's her, the guy who plays TP, and the guy who plays Max were all union actors who had to take a pseudonym.
And the way she talks about it in these features is like they didn't even know each other's real names.
Weird.
Yeah.
No, it must have been like being sneaky and try to get around SAG. It's like have to be like in Reservoir Dogs where they're all like you're Mr. White and you're Mr. Pink, and nobody has nobody gets a real name, so like nobody can spill the beans.
It sounds like it because she's like, they would be calling out Alexis Dubin on set, and I would have no idea who they're talking about. Like, that has got to be confusing as hell.
Super weird. Like most of the folks in this movie, she hasn't done a whole lot of acting. I mean, I'm sure it's fairly well known to horror fans. I was actually kind of surprised because I never really followed her. I met her once at one of those conventions, and she signed my Dawn of the Dead box set. She's very nice. There was Dawn of the Dead, there's this one, and there's Creepshow. But nowadays, she does a lot of directing. It looks like she does a lot of documentaries.
Yeah, she's like documentary, like PBS, BBC type stuff.
Yeah. Also, there's Frederick Newman. He plays Max, and I'm not really sure what Max's role in the camp is. He's either like the owner or like a head counselor or something.
I think he's like the director. He's like I'm the cool guy camp director.
Yeah.
Like, I know you guys have got some beer stashed. Just save one for me. Hey, kids.
Yeah. So, he's about one of the only other people on the cast who actually did much more than this movie. So after this, he did a lot of like episodic television and like made for TV movies. He was like, he's I think he showed up on like Law and Order and CSI New York and anything that's being shot in New York. So it was basically like
he was part of a theater troupe. I don't know if it was like avant-garde theater troupe or something, but like that's kind of his thing was like, like kind of offbeat theater. And he is also in one of these documentaries, and he is looking old and very, like decrepit. Like he is. It's filmed the year that he died.
Oh,
so
okay, that was 2012.
He looks
I think
real bad.
Yeah. I have a note. It says he dies in 2012. But like, like I think in this movie he's like kind of middle-aged to begin with. But yeah, he's an interesting character. The rest of the cast is like a lot of the people who show up in the movies that we do. They did this movie and they were never seen again. I assume that they were like a lot of people who end up in these sort of like New York production of horror movies where they were stage actors. And so once this was over and like really once the slasher wave kind of crashed, and most horror movies went back into production in California, most of them probably went into like TV advertisements and, plays.
Cab driving.
Now they're doing a lot of Uber.
It all just reminds me of the Bobby Wheeler character on Taxi. Is it Jeff Conway?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
He's always trying to make it big in acting in the theater.
Yep.
I don't think it ever happened.
Nope.
And Jeff Conway.
Man,
things didn't work out.
Things didn't really work out for him in real life either. So some notes about the movie. Trivia.
Wait, Eunice, don't skip over the great fact about the soundtrack to this film by Stephen Horlick.
Give it to me because I don't know it.
The only other thing that I think anyone would know Stephen Horlick from, if you are our age and maybe a little bit younger, is the Reading Rainbow theme.
Oh, that's right. You told me that once before. Yep.
Also, I mean, this whole soundtrack, fucking bangers, wall to wall, awesome.
I love it. It's not your average horror movie soundtrack. It's got. I suppose we'll hit it up. There's some really good like throbbing synth stuff in it. It has a like basically a Madman Marz theme song, which is
it does.
So great. I wish more slasher killers had their own theme songs. But yeah, that's definitely
it's like someone gave him the score to Halloween. They're like, "Can you do this?" And he was like, "Well, no, but I can do something." I can make other music.
Yeah.
That sounds like it a little bit.
Right, because it's really kind of out of. There's like two kind of characteristics to it. There's the goofy, silly, like funeral march song that kind of plays over the credits, and then there's like really stingy, high high register suspense music that really works great because they use it a lot. It's very tense and scary when it needs a scene to sort of like get kind of pushed over the edge.
And then there's the hot Madman Marz.
Oh
mix
God,
at the end.
yeah, love theme from Madman.
Yeah.
Yep. Oh fuck, man, that song. We'll get to that. So yeah, trivia for this movie is hard to come by. There's just not much out there to know about it.
I'm gonna hit you with a bunch of facts.
Okay, good. I'm glad you do because I don't have much. This was sort of a fly-by-night production, cast with a majority of players who never acted on screen again. Still very early in the slasher production wave, so common tropes hadn't yet fully been established. But even by that low standard, most of the cast and even the script seemed to have no idea what this movie is about.
Oh, well, and so here's the kind of main thing about the movie is, so I think it was right after the first Friday the 13th came
Right.
out. Obviously, the thing's a fucking huge hit, runs away, makes tons of money for everybody. And so all the studios are like, we will buy anything. Does it have teenagers in it? Are they sexy? Do they get murdered? That's all it took.
Yeah.
And so they were like, if that happens, you can make sexy teenage murder movie, that and then the sequel, and they will buy them.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so everyone was like out to make these. So they rushed to get money to make this movie that is supposedly based on the Cropsey legend.
Right.
Sort of a New York.
Yeah, I've got some stuff in here about Cropsey.
But they went out to get money and the funding got like really delayed. So by the time they finally got their money to start casting for the movie,
The Burning
getting
was
people
out, right?
Well, they're getting people coming in and they're like, I just tested for another role in a movie that is exactly like this.
Yeah.
And they were like, what the fuck are you talking about? So they look it up and it's The Burning. So the Burning kind of beat them to it. And they were like, all right, we have to rework this movie. And they did it in like a day or two. And let me tell you something, it shows.
Yeah.
Because this movie has zero fucking plot. I don't know what the original looked like, but this movie has like nothing happening. There's no explanations for anything. You don't know why any of these people are here. The few facts that you do get are confusing as hell.
Yeah.
And it all adds up to being one hell of a movie.
It's got charm for something that was very clearly put together like at the last minute and like rushed into production. And
they wanted Vincent Price to play the role of Max, and they were like, "Oh well, like it's a non-SAG movie, so I don't think we'll get him." And it's like, is that why you think you're not going to get him? You don't just wave money in Vincent Price's face. Huh. He's like a little bit more class than that.
He's a man of culture. Yeah,
he did a lot of really shitty movies, but like he specifically didn't do shit like this because he did not like horror movies this way.
Right. Yeah, like he liked the sort of gothic stuff. He liked anything that looked like it was a lot of fun. Horror movies. He did not.
Violent horror was not his.
Did not
hated
care
the
for
ones that he was in.
Yep, hated Witchfinder General. Yeah, but no, these and maybe that's one of those things that like they kind of came up with afterwards. Just somebody said something in an interview. And they just kind of threw it in there. And it was never, like, they never tried to get Vincent Price. It was just something that they started to kind of tell people. Maybe to kind of class up their project or something. But the Cropsey legend.
I need more than Vincent Price for that.
Ooh, yeah, I know. The Cropsey legend. So Cropsey is sort of a regional urban legend, like a boogeyman that was kind of very specific to New York, specifically Staten Island. And also like New Jersey.
Well,
but
the real thing is Staten Island. I think it was like it's an urban legend that kind of circulates around that area, like the Hudson Valley area.
Yeah. So like everywhere kind of that radiates outward from there has a version of the story. The escaped mental patient who murders people on Lover's Lane. Like if you've ever heard that sort of a story at like a campfire, it comes from this. But where most of those stories are bullshit, the story of Cropsey is actually true. I
don't think so, though. I think it's retroactively true. Like, I think it's one of those things because that story goes back decades before the actual documentary that you were about to talk about.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, maybe because the thing is, there was on Staten Island, there were a series of kidnappings and murders that were eventually linked up to. At the time of the production of the movie, they were still unsolved cases. But a few years later, a guy named Andre Rand was picked up, who was a orderly. He had a bunch of roles at this mental hospital that was on Staten Island. It was closed. And when it was closed, they just kind of opened up the doors and let everybody wander out into the streets because they didn't know where to put them.
And that's not quite how it happened, but it's sort of how it happened. It's Reagan era 80s. Like, that was basically what they did.
So Rand took up occupation, or he began to occupy like the forest in like a tent, essentially. And they eventually linked a couple. Like, basically, there were several disappearances that they were trying to get him on, but they could only really link him to one. And even in that case, they couldn't conclusively prove that he murdered the girl, but they definitely got him on a charge of like first-degree kidnapping, which was enough to put him into jail for like 20-something years. And then right as he was about to get out, they nailed him with another one that kind of stuck him in jail. Like, he'll probably die in jail. But in that time, his name was sort of attached to the Cropsey legend. And there's a really great documentary about it that I very strongly recommend. It's just called Cropsey. And it goes.
And I strongly do not recommend it.
I think it's great. You shut up.
We are divergent on this.
All right. We are divergent.
My problem with it is that, like, it's not, I could go back and do that and be like, well, here's a child killer, must be this.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, okay, well, yeah, I mean, that's what urban legends are. They're vague by their very nature. Like, to go back and try to assign a point of origin, they don't come from a specific story. That's how they evolve.
Yeah.
So to be like, well, this is where it comes from, not really. This is just a thing that it fits because it's so vague, because it's the thing that it's warning against.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is still interesting to tell.
Sure.
Like, here's an actual Cropsey maniac.
Yeah.
I like that you said he takes up in the forest. He's like a hobbit.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if hobbits killed children.
Yeah.
And for all I know, they do. I've seen the one movie. I don't know anything else.
Oh, no. I mean, if you saw the one movie, then you'd know that they're jolly fellows who love to eat.
And they smoke pipes, and they're hilarious.
Mm-hmm. Hijinks.
All right.
Yeah. So the Marz costume, as we were talking about, I call it a suit. As we said, it's not a suit. It's a pair of.
Yeah, it's like calling jeans a suit.
Jeans could be a suit in Canada.
Oh God.
Yeah. So it's a pair of like rubber feet, a pair of rubber hands, and it's a mask.
Yeah, this is some real Party City shit, and it really plays well.
Yeah, it really is like a Spirit Halloween costume. It gives Marz a really weird look. It's like he's wearing a big puffy coat over his entire body. And sometimes, like, they don't really give you a good look at him because I think that they're very conscious about the way that the full makeup appliance looks. But he kind of looks like a gray plush doll with wispy hair. And it gives the impression of being a sort of cuddly slasher killer.
Yeah, he's like a reject Muppet.
Yeah.
He's got like a big frizzy fright wig. His face is a little bit mangled, but it's also kind of blue-gray in a way that's, you're like, okay, you're kind of adorable in a way.
Yeah, like he's like an early, like a test version of Oscar the Grouch that they threw out.
Which I will say, this movie is in a lot of ways really terrible, but there are a lot of things that they do kind of well, probably unintentionally, but like one of them is they're clearly trying to create a franchise character.
Right.
Because this is not just a killer. This is a character.
Yeah, which is interesting because Friday the 13th hadn't even done that yet. Friday the 13th was supposed to be a one-off thing, and the end of the movie...
Yeah, you don't even see the killer until the end.
Yeah, like they get... And the killer...
And it's just an old lady.
Yeah, and then they give you that...
Oh, sorry, a spoiler alert, everybody. If you haven't seen Friday the 13th, you're an idiot.
I know, get the fuck out of here. What is happening? Who's even listening to this? Yeah, so like they actually had foresight, but unlike most of the movies made at this point, like it was just one and done for whatever reason.
Also, if anyone's listening and you're like, hey, I've never seen The Burning, well, you don't need to. It was made by terrible people, and it's also a really shitty movie.
It's been a long time since I've seen it. I can't really remember it very well.
One word. Weinstein.
Ooh, that's right. Yeah.
Sorry, Weinsteins.
Yep.
You get both of them.
Yep.
That's right. You thought you only wanted one? Well, you're getting both.
Get you with both barrels on that
And
one.
I could make a lot of really awful jokes from there, and I won't. And that's called growth.
Yeah. Yeah. So the movie opens on a title card, and it says, "It all started during a campfire at North Sea Cottages, a special retreat for gifted children."
All right, I gotta stop you right there. Why are there only 6 gifted children?
That's the thing. Okay, so let's get into it a
There
little bit.
are more counselors at this camp than there are children.
That is the weirdest quality of the movie. I've got notes on it. So we get this like little march procession song that plays over the credits.
Are you talking about TP's like real hot Dust Bowl era story song that he entertains the children with?
That's what comes next, and it's him singing a song about a killer who kills people and drags their bodies off to the tune of the song you just heard.
Yeah. And while they're showing you clips
of them
from
dying,
the film that you have not yet seen.
Oh my God, I want to know what the editorial decision about that was, because it
defies every convention of storytelling that there is
anywhere. Listener, here's what's happening. So there's a campfire, there's a bunch of people around it. You've seen movies, and you've
been outside before.
There's one guy, and I've been to camp. This has never happened. Nobody has ever sung me a song.
And I mean, this is like a talking blues song.
It's a murder ballad.
An atonal, arrhythmic dirge.
It's yeah, and it's not about Mars. It's just about a guy who kills.
Gonna cut your head off and drag off your body.
Yep. But as he does this, he kind of is making his way around the circle, and he stops at this person, and then he sings, and then as he sings to this person, it cuts to that person being murdered and then dragged away, and then he goes to another couple of people, and then you see them die, and then he cuts to another person, and then you see them die, which is give us a little suspense here. Because now,
in the meantime, he is getting on them. He comes up between two of the counselors. He's got him by the neck.
Oh yeah,
rubbing their neck.
Get the fuck away from me, TP.
Real sexy time at TP's campfire.
Yeah. It's so weird. So he finishes his song, and then Max, who I said either owns the camp, is head counselor or something. He starts to he tells the story of Madman Marz, but not before.
This is some real yes-anding here, because TP sings a story about, killing and dragging off the bodies. And then Max tells a story that is essentially the story that TP just sang to them.
Yeah.
And it is also the story that is about to unfold before us.
Right. But not before.
This is a mind fuck of storytelling.
Yeah, it's really, really weird. It's very experimental. But before he gets to it, he stops and he sort of gives the speech. There's a lot of people giving speeches in this movie.
Oh yeah, a lot of declarations in this movie. A lot of well-meaning declarations.
And this is a sort of a declaration, a sort of bit of exposition. If you, the viewer, watched any amount of the movie and wondered why it's not summer camp, that's because this is a special gifted children's retreat that takes place at Thanksgiving.
It's a Thanksgiving camp.
Yep. This is Thanksgiving.
Now I will tell you why it's a Thanksgiving camp.
Yeah.
I kind of wanted it to just be, and I was like, should I actually say it? And I thought, well, it's a fact, and there are so few of them about this movie, so I'm going to share it anyway. I prefer to just think they just wanted to have a gifted Thanksgiving camp, because why the fuck not? But it's because they had to wait so long to get their funding for this movie that by the time they got it, it was October.
The movie started production in November.
So they had no choice but to throw in some line to explain why it is the middle of summer, supposedly, why they're all bundled up and you can see their breath. But apparently they had to because they're outside the whole time, the set decorator had to go around and glue green leaves to the trees. And if there was anything that looked too brown or dead, they would just spray paint it green. But it's You already said it's Thanksgiving
that's
camp.
The thing.
They're just covering all their bases.
Yeah.
But I like the fact that they included it, because you could have said nothing and no one really would have noticed. But the fact that you've said something now makes me think, what the fuck is Thanksgiving camp? Why are there only 6 children here? When does it take place exactly? Is it school? Is it school break? What's happening?
That is a very, very valid point, because like, honestly, if they never said anything about it, I would not have questioned it.
Nope.
I'm just not paying that much attention to this movie. But so now Max, so he starts to tell the story of Madman Marz, an evil farmer who murdered his family and then was lynched by the town for it. And so he axes them all to death, and then he runs to the town tavern and throws the axe on the bar and like orders a drink, and instead of a drink he gets lynched.
Now I will interject here, because I had an interesting thought while I'm listening to this story, because I was just like, why does he kill his family? I think he just kills his family because he's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
But I think it's interesting because it's like he kills his family and then he goes to the bar and puts the axe down and is like, hey, everybody, I just killed my family.
You know what that sounds like?
You might think, well, who would do that? And I would say Ronald DeFeo did that in upstate New York in the late 70s.
Yeah.
Weird.
That one dawned on me as well. So
anyway, go on.
Yeah, and so the story and the whole thing is like, and it's very spooky, and he doesn't name him until the very end, and he says like and we're not supposed to speak his name above a whisper, and then
and he's like, his name is Madman Marz.
Yeah.
And someone's like, I'm sorry, what did you say his name was? He was like, oh, I said it's Madman Marz.
I said Madman Marz.
Yeah, for everybody in the back, Madman Marz.
Yep, they say it a bunch of times.
Jesus Christ. If anyone is to blame for this, it's Vincent Price.
He had brought so much craft. So, counselor, or maybe, I don't think he's a counselor. I think he's supposed to be one of the kids. Richie.
Son of a bitch.
Motherfucking Richie. He is...
and he's just like, what do you mean there were no bodies? Bodies just don't disappear. And I say, Richie, I make a living writing true crime, and I will tell you this. Bodies disappear all the time.
Yep. I lay responsibility for everything that's about to happen on his shoulders. Starts talking shit about Marz, yells out his name, which you're not supposed to do, like we said. And then
someone already did it, so.
Yeah, I suppose. But like I'm gonna put that one on. He really put some stank on it, and not only that, he throws a rock which smashes through a window into the house that's right nearby. It's supposed to be Marz's house.
And this is all starting to feel a little Texas Chainsaw, where you're like, wow, Leatherface is a real brutal killer. And it's like, okay, although these kids did just show up and walk right into his house, he clearly doesn't know what's going on. What are you going to do?
Yeah. Castle
Richie just threw a rock through your window and then enters your house and is screaming at you.
I know. If that were to happen to me, what I would do is go to the nearby camp and fucking murder everybody.
This is some real Home Alone bullshit. Like, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
I mean, I would argue he is possibly just standing his ground.
Yep. And so the crowd, we're finally breaking up for the night, and they get all the kids are getting kind of grouped up to get taken back. And TP and Betsy, who is the character that Gaylen Ross plays, have a confrontation. And he wants to get with her, but she's all pissed off that he scared the kids, which makes me wonder, were they scared?
Well, see, that's my question, because she's like of the 6 children that are here, I would say 3/4 of them look like teenagers.
Mm-hmm.
She's got the one girl who looks a little bit like, oh, I don't know. And then she kisses her on the forehead. And I'm like, all right, well, she's not your child, so maybe don't do that.
Yeah.
But then she's just like, Betsy, are we going to get our heads cut off? And Betsy's like, no, of course they're not going to get your head. Well, you don't speak too soon, Betsy.
Yep.
But other than that, she doesn't seem that upset. I will say, however, I like that Betsy is like, no, man, fuck you. Like, you just told this dumb story. Now these kids are upset. Also, you're kind of a jerk and a weirdo.
Yeah, because that's really the substance of their argument, is that he's possessive and he knows that like once this camp thing is over, their relationship is over, which also kind of begs the question, how long did this camp go on for? Because like a lot of these movies, when you watch these summer
it's
camps,
November, so they're either in school or this is some weird prison camp.
Yeah, because like a lot of these summer camp movies often give you the impression that camp lasts all summer, all fucking summer, when in reality, they usually last like a week.
Yeah, I don't have children, and when I was one, I was a pretty weird one, so I didn't engage in any of this stuff. I'm not sure if this is how it goes. I don't think it is.
Yeah,
I hope it's not.
Yeah, but like the whole thing with their relationship is he's very clingy. He doesn't want it to end, but they're all from the city, and when they go back to the city, they're all gonna like break up or something like that.
Yeah,
It's like
because he's like a big baby, and he's just like, well, you're never gonna want to see me again.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, shut the.
Yeah,
fuck
he is
up.
very needy.
And then thankfully, Stacy, one of the other ones, comes over. The other counselors comes over, and she's just like, hey guys, shut the fuck up. Right. You're in front of children and you're in public. We don't give a shit. Stop it.
Yeah, she's like, guys, you're making it weird.
I kind of love these like these moments where like Betsy is just like, no, fuck off, man. Like this is I'm tired.
Yeah.
Like I like these kind of moments of reality where she's like, this is some weird shit. None of us care. Yeah. Take it somewhere else, kids.
Yeah. So with the fire out, the boys line up to head back, but Richie sees a person standing in the trees watching everybody. And so he ends up hanging back as the rest of the boys sort of like march
off without moving their arms.
Yep, double time. And he starts snooping around.
But this is also when TP smacks him in the back of the head. And it's like, why is Thanksgiving camp so physical?
I know. He does a thing later on where he's like, hey, you seen Richie the wise guy? As he's like,
and he's like, got the kid's hand. And I was like, why is he holding his hand? And I was like, oh no, he's twisting
it. Yeah.
Which again, what the fuck, TP?
It seems like he was given, he was given like like some direction that's like, yeah, like really get in there, twist the kid's arm. And he was like, yeah, I don't know if I want to do that. So he kind of like half-heartedly.
But that just makes it look creepy.
I know it would have been
because it looks like he's caressing this teenage boy's hand.
It would have been 1,000 times less weird if he just like fucking yeah.
God damn it! Again, if you just didn't say anything, we wouldn't notice this shit.
they gotta make it weird.
Fly under the radar.
Yep. So Richie heads to the dilapidated house behind the campfire spot. It's supposedly the home of Madman Marz, and where he starts just kind of snooping around, and it's just like a abandoned house out in the woods.
It is one of many like kind of real Scooby-Doo moments.
Yeah, yeah. So back at camp, Betsy and Stacy have a conversation about TP being what does TP stand for, do you think?
Nobody says. They say they don't even know. They never knew.
Yeah. But apparently he's being possessive and not wanting to see it and go.
She's like, I like him, but he's also possessive and kind of weird. And it's like, okay, listen, if you like somebody, but also they're possessive and weird, I think that's a hard no.
Well, here's the thing.
Ladies, you gotta pass on this shit. There are better people out there.
If she's not into him emotionally, she's just into him for his body.
Well, and we're gonna see that body later. And I'll tell you right now, I'm no Gaylen Ross, but I don't think so.
Yeah, there's something about his face that weirds me out. He's got a very strange smile.
Yeah, it's just everything. You look at TP and you think, God, fuck you, man. You suck. And he doesn't have to say anything either. It's like,
he's smarmy.
Yeah.
Yep. So outside, TP and Max attempt to pull Chekhov's axe out of a...
There it is.
Yep.
That's note number 23.
Yep. Out of a stump in a weird reference to the Sword in the Stone. It's such a bizarre Chekhov's axe moment.
Yeah, because there's like a legend, like if you can pull, it's a wager. If you can pull this fucking Chekhov's axe out of this stump, you get $100. I'm like, okay, what kind of fucking weird legend wager is that?
Yeah.
But also, Max speaks in all these weird aphorisms.
That's the thing.
Like,
he
like, wow, you are the folksiest man ever.
So TP is like really trying to pull this thing out, and he kind of comes over and he like helps him out, and he puts his hand on his shoulder, and he gives him this whole like, he who stares into the abyss best not stare longer. It stares back. Like it's like, be a good person.
It's very like, TP, I'm not your dad, but if I was, TP, if I was your dad, I would just smack you in the dumb face of yours. Everybody in this movie, it feels like they should all have googly eyes, and you have to tell them not to stare into the sun. Like, there is something wrong with every single person.
I'm telling you, this movie is so fucking strange because
now I watched all these fucking bonus features, and they're like, oh, Joe, the director, and they're like, oh, he was so focused, he was so intense, he knew exactly what he wanted, and I'm like, they'll tell me what he wanted because it is not apparent in this film. It feels like nobody directed it.
This is a movie that like really kind of commits a few real horror movie blunders like right out of the gate, where it doesn't,
starting with a story song.
It doesn't give you a little taste of the action like a lot of these do. Like nobody fucking dies until about 40 minutes into the movie. Like you don't even see Marz.
Well, someone is about to die in the next second, but we don't give a shit because we don't know who any of these people are.
Yeah, because there's a lot of character building moments that just are ultimately pointless because all of these people are just knife bait or axe bait in this movie's case. So like
listen, y'all, do you want to know why when Linda and Annie die in Halloween, why it's so sad and upsetting? Because we like them and because we know who they are.
Yeah.
Now, the alternative to that is I have to then hate them if you're going to just kill them off without any context.
Yeah.
You can't give me neither of those and just be like, here are just some people. They're really, really weird and awkward.
That's the thing.
Don't get too attached, though. It's like, well, don't worry. I won't because I don't know anything about them. Other than the fact that they all seem a little bit confused.
They're all the thing is this is not the opposite of Halloween, where like like sleepaway camp is like that, where everybody except Angela and Ricky are ferocious maniacs who just deserve everything they get. These people in this movie, they're all reasonable and pleasant and like thoughtful,
like to a fault, to a very weird fault.
Yeah,
where you're just like, do any of you know where you are right now?
No,
and I don't think they do.
Yep. So speaking of Dippy,
sweet Dippy, we meet not long for this world. Really,
we meet Dippy, who is the camp's silent clown cook. Maybe he's what is the point of Dippy? Because he just shows up and he's the drunk chef. And then he gets killed.
I don't know why you need a chef for 6 children. But he's drunk and he's like blowing into the bottle. And then Stacy comes along and she's like, Dippy, I think it's empty.
Yep.
And he's just like,
doesn't speak a word. He just gives her like the stink eye. And then he gets up and he wanders into the kitchen or whatever, and he opens up like a cabinet
because he's going to get another bottle of something. Now, another question: why do you have a pantry full of liquor at Thanksgiving gifted camp? And we're going to come back to this question a bunch of times. And you're just going to swap out liquor cabinet with any other thing I'm about to say.
I know. But he gets there's Marz, and he kind of doesn't jump out. He just it's like the scene in My Bloody Valentine where the guy opens up the locker and he gets hit with the pickaxe. It's like that.
Except that scene's awesome.
Yeah, that scene
doesn't make any fucking sense.
No.
And he's got his he's like a very long weird nails because he slashes into his
he rakes his throat and cuts him open. That's okay. So that brings up an important question about Marz, because in the beginning of the movie, when we're introduced to him through song, he's just a normal person. But when we finally see him, he's a monster.
He's like person/lion.
And he never speaks.
He's like a Lursen.
He's like Karloff in The Old Dark House, where he's just like, there's even a scene.
But Karloff in The Old Dark House is like, you get that he's just a person. He's just a maniac.
Yeah.
He's like a wild fiend.
Yeah, it's
this guy is sort of like, he's sort of supernatural. He's kind of animalistic, but also he's a slasher. It's like, you can't have all of them.
Yeah, they never really lay the lore out, which is really kind of a problem, because even in the scene where we see him get lynched, he's like wearing boots and shit. And then when we see him now,
which I go back to say, what did the original script look like? Because if you did all these changes, I am willing to give them the benefit of the doubt that a lot of this is because they had to do all this like last minute retooling.
Yeah.
It's like you couldn't have had that much to begin with because there's nothing here.
Yeah.
There's no story here.
Yeah.
Which is probably why everyone is just like, oh, hey man, let's hang out by the fire and play the recorder and not get murdered.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just the nature of Marz is really kind of up in the air. He's a monster, or maybe he's a person, maybe he's undead, maybe it's never established. It's really fucking weird. He's got monster claws and he runs around on big puffy feet.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah. So meanwhile, everybody finally realizes that Richie isn't there because he's still at Marz's house poking around.
And one of the kids goes, "Hey, don't worry, man. Richie knows what he's doing."
Yeah.
Look, Gifted Camp. I don't think Richie knows what he's doing.
No,
Richie is the future TP.
Richie sucks so much. Fuck Richie. But yeah, back at camp, Max gives another speech about
this scene. Oh man.
This scene's real wild.
While they're all gathered around the table, this whole fucking thing feels like a weird, like, Christian instructional video from the 80s.
Yeah. He gives him a speech.
Like, these are the whitest people you've ever seen anywhere.
Very much, yeah. He gives them a speech about how special the counselors all are, how the impression that they've made on the lives of these youngsters will last a lifetime. And I'm like, I don't fucking know about that.
What are any of you talking about?
Yep.
This is insane.
It's very touching. And again, very weird.
And then Betsy says, like a contestant on Project Runway, I just need to say something.
Yeah,
Excuse me, can I just say something? Like, it's fucking Top Chef. She's just like, excuse me, Max, I just need to say something, okay?
Yep.
And it is the weirdest. Like, why are you doing this now at the end of camp? Just shut up.
She airs her grievances about telling scary stories to the children, to which Max is like, he puts his hand on her shoulder and is like, thank you. And just so you know, I'll only tell it to the older campers next year. And she's like, thank you. It's like fucking group therapy.
It's like everybody is just like, you know what? You're right. No, I'm not. You're right. Yeah. No, I can't be right. You're right.
It's very,
you know what? We're all right.
It's very, I'm okay, you're okay. Like, it's so like period.
It's so fucking weird.
Yeah. And then they applaud.
Like, everyone is so agreeable in the weirdest way.
Yeah. Yep. They all applaud.
And then TP has to make because that's when Max is like, well, I know that there's some beers hidden away, kids. Just save one for me.
Yeah.
Ring a ding and out the fucking door. And then
but where's he going?
Oh, he's got to go play cards. He's got to go into town and play cards. Like, this is all very convenient. Yeah. He's got to pick up the shutters and then play cards.
Yep.
And then TP is like, now I would like to say something. And everybody, if it were me, I'd be like, Jesus fucking
this fucking guy.
But everybody's like, oh, you have something to say too? Well, we're very respectful, so please go on, TP.
Yep.
And he says, earlier tonight, you witnessed an unfortunate scene between Betsy and I. And it's just like, what is happening? Why are you doing this? And he is just like, I was very selfish and unkind, and I'm embarrassed that you had to see that. And I'm especially sorry to Betsy, to whom I was a raging cunt face. And my words, not his. They don't say that in Christian instructional videos,
no.
But they should. And then he's like, now I would like to raise a toast to friends and friendship. To love and lovers.
May
you always have more than you need.
Yep.
What the fuck?
More applause. That's the thing is this movie is like 60% filler. And all the filler happens up front, and it's this just bizarre stuff that like they must have written on the day. Like, this could not possibly have been part of a script. They must have been like, okay, like we're about like 5 minutes short of a feature because this movie isn't even 90 minutes. And so they're like, okay, Max, do the whole like wise old man thing, and then TP, like, I don't know, just like chew the scene a little bit. Like,
do your whatever
it is you're doing, yeah.
And it is so bizarre. And they're all just like, you know what? Here.
Yeah.
To friendship. God, TP, you're just the best. No, Betsy, you're the best. No, Stacy, you're the best. God, I love you all. And they all just fall into a fucking pile together. It's so
lovers.
So weird.
Yeah.
It's just, yes, they're just two lovers.
Yeah.
On a vacation, two lovers.
Two lovers. So Max takes his leave and we cut to the worst sex scene ever committed to film.
This is one of the greatest things ever committed to film. It is long and awkward as hell.
I crawl inside myself every time I see this scene. So,
starting with the music.
Because
the music, I believe that is TP singing.
No.
I think it is. I'm pretty sure it is. And this song is just like, for love and lovers who want to be in love together. Lovers getting into a hot tub. One of the lines is, a magician does his magic, fills you with a slick trick.
Oh my God.
God damn it.
That's the fucking worst. It's so
yeah.
These like I hate it when they feel like they got to put a fucking sex scene in it just to get some.
Here's the thing
in the scene.
Here's the thing about this sex scene and why it's so ridiculous. Now, again, this is me ruining this incredible moment. Apparently, this whole thing takes place in a hot tub, like you have at a Thanksgiving
gigantic hot tub.
Yeah, and so the whole thing takes place in a hot tub. Apparently, while they're filming it, Gaylen Ross is like, okay, this is kind of awkward. So she's like, gives TP a little bit of direction about like, maybe we could, like, it would look a little more realistic if we did it this way.
If we did it that way?
Apparently he didn't like her recommendation and stormed off and like locked himself in the sauna and would not come out. And I don't know if it's just like, well, she's a bitch. It's like, well, okay.
This is very on brand for TP.
Yeah, this feels like, I look at him and I'm like, you seem like the kind of guy that would do this. And so the only way they could get him to come out, because he's basically like, I'm not going to take no direction from a lady or whatever. And they were like, all right, fine. After like hours. And they were like, all right, if we play it like a comedy scene and we just kind of blow, like, we got to get this fucking thing done. Like, can we just get through it? And so he agreed to come out if they did it in like kind of a goofy way.
Yeah.
Which is why it feels kind of goofy. But like, it is the least sexy thing I can imagine.
It is.
Like you get like them getting into the hot tub, and it's like like you see him undressing, and he's got his TP belt.
He's got a big TP belt buckle,
which I would argue is Chekhov's belt buckle. But
I can see it.
Like you see, the weird thing is like you see them undressing. You mostly see TP undressing.
Yeah,
and it's not sexy.
No.
And then you see his ass as he gets into the thing, and it's like, what is this? What's happening here? Whose movie is this?
Yeah.
Who's this for?
Yeah.
Who wants to see TP's ass?
Well, they got to give equal time because there's
I guess
Gaylen Ross topless for like a split second, but we get a long, like 30-second descent of TP's ass into the hot tub,
and then the two lovers just swirl about one another in the hot tub.
Circling
I don't even know how to adequately describe this, because they are literally just sort of like, imagine you're just like push your body up against a wall and then you kind of roll your way along the wall without really pulling away from it. It's like that, except they're rolling along the inside, just opposite one another.
Yep.
And she was like, I think you can tell in this scene that we're not too happy with each other because we're not getting any closer than we absolutely have to, which is why we're both backed up to the corners of the thing. It's like, okay, well, I guess that makes sense then. As you clumsily spin your way around as though it's sexy or something.
Yeah, because it's like,
and then it's
sultry too, and the music really sets the mood, which is just absurd, front to back. It's so awkward and awful and weird, and I hate it. I fucking hate it.
Because it's not like they're even, and obviously aesthetics are an objective, subjective thing. But it's not like they're classic beauties, either one of them.
Yeah.
So, you're taking these two kind of like rustic looking people and putting them in this awkward scene that you drag out for a really long time
So
and put
long.
some weird ass music behind it. I don't know how I'm supposed to feel, but sexy is not it.
No.
But you know who does feel sexy about it?
Mars.
Madman Marz.
Madman Marz is watching, and he looks in at the two of them through a window, and we find out that TP is maybe not a terribly generous lover.
No. Nope.
Yep.
Nope. Because she
says something like you didn't let me finish or something.
She comes up in the middle and says, I was right in the middle. You didn't let me finish. And my note just says, in the middle of what? And I'm pretty sure I am a middle-aged man. I know what they're in the middle of. But that scene doesn't suggest that that's what's happening.
Yep. So now fucking stupid fucking Richie is still out sneaking around in the forest. And apparently there are no trails in this campground. Like, there's the only way to move around the landscape is to like push your way through the brush and the bushes and shit. Because like even when they're at the campfire at the beginning, like when they leave, they have to like push aside foliage and shit. Like there's just no easy way to get to the camp. Like it just seems like everybody's out like wandering around through dense brush. So yeah, we cut back, and
not everybody. I mean, Stacy has made her way down to the shore.
Yeah, she
is sitting in a boat on the shore playing the recorder.
Yep. Which
why is she playing the recorder?
Okay, so if TP got to sing Love Theme from Madman, maybe this was like another contingency of her contract where she was like, okay, I get to also show my talent for playing the recorder in the movie.
But like I guess it's sort of like when you have like Sean Cassidy is in a TV movie and they're like, okay, but he also has to sing 2 songs. Maybe, but it's just like, what? I guess like, okay, we want to give her something to do. Why is recorder where your brain goes?
Yeah, like she's out in her happy place, and it's we don't actually hear her play it. The music that we hear, it's almost like with Ralph Wiggum with a flute up his nose. Like it's like that.
Yeah, because that's all a recorder sounds like.
Yeah. It's like,
there's no adult that plays this. No, it's for children
it's for 5th graders.
First grade.
Yeah. So on her way back to camp, she struggles to climb up a dirt embankment and narrowly escapes Mars, but then
she turns back. She gets to the top of the hill and turns back, and she kind of gives it this look like, yeah, fuck you.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, how did you get down there in the first place?
I know. So they do this.
Nothing about this movie makes sense.
No, they do that, and they do that thing with the near miss with Madman Marz like a bunch of times, and I find it such a dubious trick because
you would know if someone is 4 feet behind you,
yeah,
especially when that someone is going.
Yeah. So now we cut back to the camp for another one of the movie's weirdest fucking scenes.
This is my favorite part in this entire movie.
So it's set up like a group sex scene in a porno.
Because what? Why are they're all chilling by the fire?
Yeah.
Well, there's 4 of them at this point.
Yeah. So
they're like, you don't see them smoking weed, but I guess we're supposed to assume. But the problem is they have seemed like they are stoned out of their fucking gourds for the entire movie.
Yeah. So that's why this is.
How am I supposed to know the difference?
This is why it's so weird. So they're like stacked side by side, like head to head. So there's like 2 facing up and 2 facing down. And they're all talking like either they just all 4 of them got like concussions simultaneously, or
but they're like, one of them's like, I love fire, I love the way it destroys everything, and then Elliot's like, no man, I don't like fire. That's destruction's not that beautiful, man.
Yeah,
and then. It's this sort of like, how do I know that your reality is my reality?
Yeah.
And how do I know that I'm here and you're not there? And it's like, what is happening? You are in charge of children right now.
Without the context of them like smoking a joint right there, it just acts like it's 4 people being really weird with one another. Because this is the part where Dave gets up and he grabs a knife and he walks
like
around
like a goddamn psychopath.
Yeah. And he walks around, and his whole thing is like it's like you never really know a person. Like I could be thinking about murdering all of you right now. And it's like a
Is he supposed to be a red herring, or is this just like a filler moment?
I think that it was. I think you're onto something with that, because I also used to think that Max's disappearance was a part of the red herring. It was like a red herring also. But this whole scene, when he does this thing with like, I could cut your heads off and drag your bodies away, like this whole thing, it seems like he's giving a monologue for like theater class or something. It's such a
and it really feels like, because he is just fucking swinging for the rafters.
Yeah. And then he
they
jumps
all
on him,
laugh, and they fall into a pile, and they're definitely gonna fuck, but they don't.
Nope.
They don't. But the 80s. The 80s was the horniest decade. And I'm not saying the 80s was like a hot, sexy decade.
Yeah.
I'm just saying it was a real horny decade. Like in that like sweaty perms and corduroy kind of thing.
Yeah, we went over that with House and Sorority Row, where it was like, this is still like that hangover from the 70s thing.
Yeah, it's just like everybody wants to fuck everybody all the time. Even when they're screaming in your face with a knife in your hand about cutting up your bodies and how do I know my reality is yours? It's like, it's all in good, sexy fun, everybody.
Yep.
Jesus Christ. If only we could be that way now.
Yep.
I mean, I don't really want to be that way now, but I just wish we had that same sort of sense of wonder, sexy wonder.
It does. It seems very, very freeing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So back to stupid fucking Richie in the bushes again. Still not dead. Still not being killed for the horror he brought down on his group of weirdos. There's so much fucking filler in this movie. So
this is when TP goes out to find him, and he's like, and he's in the cab. This is when he twists the kid. He's like gently caressing the kid's hand, but also twisting it maybe. And then he was like, I gotta go find Richie. And he turns and he's like, nobody leaves this cabin. And it's like, dude, there are two of them. What do you mean nobody leaves the cabin?
Yeah. So as he's leaving, Betsy sees the shadow of Marz in the camp as she sets off and commits slasher movie blunder number 1. Which is always follow up when you think you saw something. But she does the usual slasher thing and says, never mind.
I'm just a lady.
Yeah.
You go ahead.
And so we get a little POV of Marz stalking TP. Now, Ellie and Bill have struck out on their own. They're setting up a tent, declaring their
Let me
love.
tell you something. My love for Ellie in this film is deep and true.
She's a very special lady.
She is bringing so much Chili in Friday Part 3 energy to this movie that is so incredible.
She's got such a weird vibe because she has this like very slow, easy smile, and the way that she delivers all of her
like
lines,
she's been hit in the head.
she's got like head injury vibe about her. So they're out there declaring their love for one another. They decide
because they decide this is after they all don't fuck in the big cabin with everybody else. She and Dave go off and they put up a tent and they're gonna do it in the tent is my guess. And she climbs into the tent and he's in there and she looks up and says, "Great moon tonight." And I thought, bitch, you are inside.
She says,
you cannot see the moon. Why are you looking up?
Yeah, so that's right after they decide that sex is better than going for a swim, which I gotta agree with them because it's fucking November.
Yeah, because it's upstate New York in November.
And she looks wistfully at the sky and goes, "Great moon tonight, Billy. Hey, Billy
Except
boy."
she doesn't because she's looking wistfully at the top of the tent.
Maybe
inside.
Maybe she's still high. Who knows?
But she is high the entire movie because she's just like, "Oh man, wow, oh totally, we should get in. You don't want to go back to school. You just want to live in a tent. Oh, cool, man. Yeah."
Yeah. So TP is out in the woods being stalked by Marz. We get a flash of the killer real quick. It's when he's like using the flashlight to sort of look through the bushes, and we see him real quick, and then he comes back and he's gone.
Oh, and he's got the Party City Fright wig.
Yep.
It's some real like Warner Brothers cartoon shit.
It's
like,
really
just, like,
really goofy.
Scans the tree line and what? It goes back and there's nothing there.
Yeah.
But then he's just like, "Richie, is that you?" And it's like, you think this giant purple-faced Party City Fright wig is a teenage boy?
This is classic slasher movie bullshit where they shout the name, hey, so-and-so, hey, I know it's you, come out. And then they get stabbed, they get slashed, they get cut, something like that happens. I fucking hate when that happens because it's just not what anybody would ever do. But it's 37 minutes in, the killing finally starts. And TP gets a noose thrown over his neck and he's dragged through the woods before Marz throws the rope over a tree branch and lifts him up.
And this scene, I will tell you, this is one of the moments where they get it right because this scene is really harrowing.
I got a note in here about that where for such a soft movie up to this point, it's a pretty nasty kill scene.
Because the makeup is so realistic. Like his face is all like kind of red and
purple around the eyes and his eyes roll up. But it's not just, and it doesn't really end there. It's quite long where like TP like at one point like manages to sort of like lift himself up to like relieve the pressure of it. And he grabs the tree branch above him. He's trying to lift himself so he can like get this thing off of his neck. And that's when Marz comes over and grabs him by the TP belt buckle and yanks him downward to break his neck. And then that's where he dies.
And it's real rough.
It's pretty rough. Yeah. Yeah. Like the kills in this movie are not terrible. Most of them are pretty intense.
I think we have Dippy to thank for that.
Yeah. Good old Dippy.
I think he did all the effects.
Yep. So we cut to camp again where grown-ass woman is doing the he loves me not thing.
But in like a weird way, like she believes it.
Yeah.
Because every time she's like, oh, he loves me not. And it's like, bitch, you realize you're the one doing this.
It's like, lady, you're like,
this is not magic.
You're like 30 years old. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And in comes Stacy.
Yeah, little does you know that TP's dead.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if he loves you or loves you.
You will never, ever know. So we cut back to camp. Yep, that's that. She gets Dave to go looking for Richie and TP.
But then Stacy's just like, well, I'm going to go look too. And she's like, wait, no, don't go. And Stacy's like, that's the difference between us. You're content to just stay here and I'm going to take action. It's like, Stacy, for someone who plays the fucking recorder, you're kind of a bitch.
She's not a nice lady. But also Betsy is like one of the most humorless people in the entire movie. Like
she really is. And I'll tell you, having watched these interviews with Gaylen Ross, I think maybe Gaylen Ross did not have the best time on this movie because even everybody in the other interviews is like, oh, Gaylen, yeah, I never had any problems with her. And it's like, I'm sorry, did someone suggest there were problems with Gaylen Ross? Because that's a really weird way to start that sentence. Because that's a real, like, look, I'm not racist, but, like, wait, what?
Yeah, she,
okay.
There's a quality to her character that is like, and you can see it on her face where it's just like, let's just get this over with. But it's time for Marz to pull Chekhov's axe out of the stump and become the rightful king of England, which he does. And now he goes out and stalks Dave in the forest. And we have another one of those like near miss things where like Dave steps out of the way right before he gets hit by the axe or something like that. And but he does bump in.
It's that real kind of cartoony setup where it's just like he leans down to pick up a flower, and just as he does it, the axe swings above his head. It's like, how would you not notice any?
There's a lot of Scooby-Doo shit happening in this movie.
And I'll tell you, as an adult man who loves Scooby-Doo, I appreciate it.
Yeah, but he bumps into TP's hanging body, and now like a struggle ensues. And there's a bit of a build up in tension as he sort of like hides behind a fallen tree and he pulls his knife out. And then, but then eventually, Marz is on him and there's like a lot of axe swings. And then finally he hits Dave and we cut back to the camp where Stacy excuses herself to go find the others.
Yeah, Madman Marz, he is a oddly agile person for someone dead and gigantic.
Yeah, you actually see him like leap in this scene, which is one of the...
And the guy, Paul Ellers, he is not a small person.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, well, he does martial arts, and they show pictures of it. It's like, well, he seems like the kind of guy who would say that he does martial arts, but he doesn't look like he does.
Yeah. So, Stacy's plan is to go find Bill and Ellie, who are currently knocking boots in the tent. She barges in, fully knowing what they're doing.
And Ellie's just like, oh, wait, cool, man. Hey.
Yep.
Hey, how's it going?
She basically urges them to stop and help her. She's like, I'm not really in no hurry, but, hurry up, I guess.
And then Ellie responds like every character. What's her face? Who's the one from Scary Movie? Anna Faris.
Yeah, Anna Faris.
Just like Anna Faris. Like she's every Anna Faris character in Scary Movie.
Yep. So to go looking, she gets herself a horror movie flashlight and then gets into a horror movie truck to drive out into the wilderness. And it's amazing.
Now I have to say, as a weird kid, I didn't go to camp, and I have absolutely never run a camp for gifted children at Thanksgiving. But if I were going to, I would make sure at least one vehicle works. Because this movie has 2 vehicles in it. Neither one of them.
This is a
You
catastrophe.
don't seem like you're well prepared for a gifted Thanksgiving camp.
Yeah. So and we get these 2 icons in the same scene where the truck doesn't start and the flashlight is dead.
Now I've always wondered, because the flashlight thing is a thing that I criticize films for a lot, and then I think, well, is it possible that you could, like, maybe it just isn't connecting? Because it's a pretty basic kind of feat of mechanical engineering. Like, it's just a battery touches a thing.
Sure.
So maybe you could just bang on it. And then I was just like, no, that's not how flashlights, it's not how anything works.
Yeah.
You can't just touch a knife to a fucking car engine and make it start. You can't just bang on a thing. Now I get it. We wouldn't have a movie if you could.
Yeah.
But like, come on.
Yep.
You're better than that, Madman. I don't know if you are, actually.
Yep. So let's see. She's out in the woods. She gets the thing started and gets off, and she's out in the woods, and Marz is stalking her. She sees a light off in the distance. She finds Dave's dropped lantern, and then she finds Dave. But then she does something that you don't often see in other horror movies. When she finds the body, she just sees his legs sort of over a log. And in any other movie, they do that thing where they'd be like, now, come on, Dave, stop playing around. But her initial instinct is, are you okay? And that's when she runs over and... yeah,
because that's what she'd do as a normal person.
Yeah.
Or I'd just be like, this doesn't look good. I gotta go.
Yeah. But what she finds is his decapitated body. And then then
you hear that sweet Madman Marz love theme kicks in.
Yep. The body falls down next to a pretty good looking severed head prop. And I got, like I said, with some of the kills, they're pretty good. Some of the prop appliances also pretty good. Like that's
the head, yes. The decapitated neck, not so much.
Yeah.
That's got some real like Halloween hayride vibe there to it.
Yeah. The thing with the heads always gets me because it feels like it's such a detailed part of the body, and it's like a thing that we always kind of like, there's so much pattern in it that like we're sort of drawn to look at it. But like contemporaries at this time, like Tom Savini is a very talented effects artist, but his severed heads always looked like fucking shit. So like for this one at this time that was operating, I think in the same year that like the Prowler came out, that's a pretty good looking head. So points to Dippy. Good job.
When you make puppets in a barn in Vermont, you got to get good at something. You don't have a lot of time on your hands.
Yeah. So she hysterically runs back to the truck, tries to start it, and wouldn't you know, doesn't start. So she gets out, opens up the hood, and while she's under it, Marz jumps on the hood, and her decapitated body slumps to the ground. That's probably not how that's going to work, no matter how heavy he is, but I'll take it.
Ooh.
Yeah.
And this is about where the movie starts to drag a
little bit. So we get back.
Because there's like a big gap in my notes where I'm just like, wait, when does this shit happen? Oh, it's not for like another 20 minutes.
Yeah. Because there is a bit, because this is like really a bit of a stretch up until the very end where, well, no, this is a bit that kind of leads into where Ellie has her scene in the kitchen. That was pretty good. And then we move on to sort of Betsy's stuff where like it's all pretty snappy and moves along. But yeah, this section is a little dense. Ellie and Bill find the truck, and Ellie sees Marz standing over Stacy's dead body, and she screams, drawing his attention. She runs to Bill, who does the next slasher movie blunder. Instead of going back to camp, they go to the truck to see what it was that Ellie saw. Fucking
yeah, because he's just like, well, let's just go back and see, and maybe we'll see if you saw what you really thought you saw.
Yeah.
It's like, hey man, I know she's an idiot, but you don't have to condescend to her.
Rookie move, assholes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they walk around the truck and they see every side of the truck except for the bloodstained front end. Bill.
Meanwhile, he's like, every time they're on one side, like Madman Marz is creeping around the other side. So again, it's a very Scooby-Doo moment.
Yeah. He goes back around, like going the long way around to avoid the blood on the front end. They try to start it and it doesn't start. So he's like, okay, I'm going to get out and open up the hood. And he just starts to do so and sort of backs off in terror. And what we see is Stacy's head on the engine block. So
this is when he tries to start it and you hear this horrific
yes,
squelching noise.
Yes, like some part of her is like jammed up in the belts or something.
And I guess I'll give him props for that, but
I only noticed that this time.
Yeah, I've seen this movie like 6 or 7 times, and
yeah. So he very quickly tries to like get the head off of the block, and he closes up the hood, and it starts like miraculously. But as they're starting to like pull away, Marz comes in and pulls Bill out of the driver's seat through the window, and Ellie is screaming, and she tries to take control of it, but the car, like the truck, like rolls along and like smacks into a tree, and then she gets out and sort of runs back to camp. But not before.
This is where she gets that real chilly energy where she's just like, oh God, oh no, oh God, oh no,
yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, she looks back and she sees Marz holding Bill's body over his head like fucking like Hulk Hogan or something like that. And there's all these like popping and cracking sounds as he does it. But yeah, so what Marz has been doing this whole time, and I haven't really remarked on it, is every time he kills somebody, he drags them back to his house. And so
he kills them and drags off their bodies. It's literally in the song.
And so
that song, if you don't want to watch this movie, just listen to the song. It'll tell you all you need to know.
Everything you need to know. There's just no gore or terrible sex scene. So we get
terribly awesome.
We get more of stupid fucking Richie in the forest, who I think at this point is like just pushing his way through branches and says like, where am I? It's like, exactly.
Yeah, except it's all 80 yard. And so his mouth isn't moving, but you hear him being like, oh shit. Oh no.
Yeah.
But it's like, he's clearly not speaking when you're hearing this.
Yeah, but nobody else seems to have any problem moving around the forest, but Richie can't get his fucking bearings. And what we see is he eventually gets it back to the house, and he sees Marz dragging the body into the house. And so after that, Madman Marz like happily leaps back out into the forest, like bounding and jumping. And Richie goes in and goes down into the basement. He makes a terrible discovery that we don't see.
Honestly, who gives a shit about Richie? Like, I had forgotten all about him. Every time he comes up in the movie, it's just like, this again? Because it's the same fucking scene. They can just loop it. It's the same scene over and over again.
He brings nothing to the story whatsoever. And every time I see him, I'm like, you motherfucker, this is your fault.
Well, it will come as no surprise to you then that this is the only film he's ever been in.
Yep. So Ellie makes it back to camp, but so does Marz. He chases her into a kitchen, and he handily chops his way through a door and then through another one. But Ellie manages to hide in the refrigerator, which I was told never to do.
Ellie, if Punky Brewster has taught us anything, and it hasn't, it's that you never hide in the refrigerator.
Yep, but it works. So in your face voices of safety.
It sort of works. She throws all the fucking food on the floor, and it's like, okay, I get that he's a madman who lives in the woods, but not a dummy.
Yeah, and this is when she's in there, we get her like her perspective, and we hear Marz outside like throwing shit around and going like, "Arr, arr." But then things quiet down, and she emerges from the fridge, and this is probably the most legitimately tense moment in the movie. Because we get that kind of like throbbing like synth sting as she's walking back through the place. She's about to like leave the cabin when an axe comes out of nowhere and strikes her in the chest. She falls back, fucking blood all over her and shit. And then we go outside, and Betsy comes out, And she looks into the cabin and sees Ellie's bloody body on the ground. So she runs back to the office and she calls Max. And
she grabs the phone and my note says, she's finally calling the... Wait, no, she's calling Max.
Yep.
Bitch, call the police.
I know. She begs him to come back. And then, against all horror movie instincts, she grabs the shotgun off the wall and loads it.
Oh, no.
This fucking gun, her handling of this firearm is so goddamn terrible. So
this is the elephant gun in Tremors.
It's a double-barreled shotgun. It's quite large. She goes back to the cabin where Ellie's body was, and Marz presumably presses Ellie's head against the window, but she's still sort of alive at this scene.
Oh.
But Betsy just gives her both fucking barrels, shoots her right in the face.
And there are two things about this scene that are remarkable. One is when she shoots her in the face, I thought, good God, that is insult to injury. This is like of all these fucking dopey dumbass characters, this is like the one you kind of like, all right, you're an idiot, but you're also, I kind of like you. And she just gets her head fucking blown off after getting an axe in the chest. Yeah. That's not great.
Yeah.
But also the look on Betsy's face when she fires the gun, and it's in the trailer too.
Yeah.
It's in the movie and in the trailer. She has this look on her face like she's just like, what was that? She's like, yeah, she's just sort of like a little bit stunned and a little jarred, like, oh, what happened?
Oh, I know. Either that or like her mind has just blanked it out. Like, I have just brutalized one of my friends with buckshot. Like, I am not going to, it's going to take therapy to bring this out. And in the meantime, I'm going to do terrible things to myself.
Or she's just like, well, I got that creep show coming up. That'll change the trajectory of things. This isn't going well.
Yeah. So she then goes
Three
back.
more days.
And she ushers the kids onto the bus and manages to get down the road a ways. But Marz catches up. And this is where we get that really funny scene where the headlights like cross the road. We see him like in the middle of the road and he kind of reacts like, whoops, I gotta get out of the way.
Yeah, it is a very like, oh. You're further along than I thought you'd be.
And she, they slow and they stop, and he gets his hand in the door, and they manage to close it. And they smash it repeatedly with a baseball bat until he goes away. And then,
I will say, I will give them credit for this. This is one of very few camp movies that takes place at camp and actually has children in it.
Yeah.
That's because Friday the 13th there are like fucking 37 of those movies. You don't actually see children in those movies until the 7th one.
Yeah.
Now,
I think really, I mean, like The Burning was the first one to really kind of do that. But I mean, honestly, even in that one, like Fisher Stevens is the only person who looks like a kid in that movie.
And you want all of them to die.
Oh yeah, they're the worst, man. Except for him. He's all right. So at this point, she decides that this is horror movie blunder number 3. I have to go back for the others.
Yeah, but also, how does she know how to drive a bus?
I don't know.
Could you drive a bus? I don't think I could.
No, you have to have like a CDL for it. You gotta have like train for that shit.
I don't mean like, can you legally drive a bus? I mean like if
you when you like to get a CDL, like you gotta know how to drive the actual vehicle. It's not like driving a fucking car.
And you go get a new job tomorrow.
It's like in that scene in Near Dark where the guy where they're in the truck and the guy explains to him how to drive the truck because if you don't, you're gonna fucking crash and kill everybody. Like there's a whole like thing to it. Not that driving a bus is like an 18-wheeler, but
it's not like driving a car either. No. I imagine.
No, but the answer is probably not. I probably could not drive a bus.
But not only does Gaylen Ross know how to drive a bus, this other kid, she's just like, take the wheel, Steve. I gotta go save the rest of everybody else. And the answer is Gaylen Ross. Stay in that bus and drive it the fuck out of here.
Oh, that's the thing. So as far as final girls go, she's pretty bad at this.
Well, she's not a final girl, as we're about to find out.
She's the final girl to get killed.
She's final-ish.
Yeah, so she stalks Max back to his house, blows off like some of her last remaining shells in the shotgun. She's super unsafe with this. Like she shoots at the slightest provocation. Like if it is logically consistent that she killed one of her friends conclusively with this gun. She's just firing at everything.
Yeah, like if they weren't all already dead,
Oh, she'd
she
finish him
would
off.
definitely have killed him.
Yeah. So Marz gets the best of her while she's trying to reload the gun, drags her downstairs where they struggle a bit more, and he throws her on a...
After he rips a gnarly hole in her face.
Yeah, she tears like half her fucking face off. So they get down in the basement, and he lifts her up, throws her on a meat hook. And she manages to, like, she's got, basically the whole time she's had this knife on her belt that's prominently featured in a few scenes. You could call it Chekhov's belt knife, I suppose. But she gets it out.
It's not as good as Chekhov's axe,
No,
but
no.
it's something.
I tried. But she gets to stab him once, and he kind of flails and knocks a candle on the ground, which lights some hay on fire.
Yeah, because the thing you haven't mentioned is that Madman Marz's house is not only lit with shitloads of votive candles.
Oh yeah, it's like something out of an Anne
It is
Rice
also
novel.
full of hay, and just like imagine building he's like a human mouse. He's built a house out of absolutely everything flammable you could find.
Yep.
And she stabs him like in the shoulder or whatever. And the only reason these people all die is because Marz knocks over one of his 1,800 candles, and it hits all of his hay.
Yeah.
Up they go.
Yep, the whole place goes up. And I can't remember. Do we actually see him sort of escape into the night?
No, I think he dies.
Oh, okay. Because the implication here is that he kind of gets away. And so Max returns and he runs into a catatonic Richie on the road who announces that Marz is real as we flash over what he saw in the basement, which is all of his friends on meat hooks.
And my note says, "Oh, Max, you have a lot of explaining."
So much explaining to do. Insurance nightmare.
I can think of 6 sets of parents that are going to be really upset with you.
He's like Mel in Sleepaway Camp, where he's like, "Oh, these insurance companies are going to kill me." Yeah. So this is...
There will not be a Thanksgiving gifted camp next year. I can tell you that much.
No, this experiment has failed catastrophically. So this is a really strange twist for slashers in that the bad guy wins. At this,
and I for one love when the bad guy wins. I wouldn't love it if it happened all the time.
I think we've talked about this a little bit before in other episodes, but I definitely do like appreciate a horror movie that goes there. Like The Babadook has an ending like that. You know, I think we talked about it where the house wins in the House on Haunted Hill.
Like, I don't care, like, not so much for this. Not when it's just like, and then Jason Voorhees gets away. We're like, oh, whatever. I don't give a fuck about that. Like, that's because it's so obviously contrived so we can get more sequels.
Yeah.
But I do like it when it leaves you with that kind of unsettled, kind of gross feel. Like my favorite film, Black Christmas, where at the very end it's like, no, but he's still alive.
Yeah. Yeah.
And he's still in the house.
It's because we don't get it very often, and because I imagine like a lot of filmmakers just don't want to leave the audiences feeling bad. They feel like obliged to have a sort of triumphant moment at the end. But like, I think that it's a very sweet twist of expectations when you let the bad guy win. Because like, just about everybody dies in this movie. And like, this is the thing, when this movie came out, there weren't a lot of slasher movies to really sort of lay down the tracks and sort of establish the tropes. So like, they were kind of free to do anything. And up to this point,
what I love about this though, so I have said on the record that I love this era. This is probably my favorite era of horror movies between, let's say, Black Christmas,
74.
Between that and I'm going to say 82.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's my favorite era because it's like just after you get a shitload of knockoffs, but it's all before this dumbass trope business, which I have a lot of problems with anyway, because I think a lot of those are applied to films, again, far after the fact. Before, like, when they're like, well, clearly this is, the slut has to die. And it's like, I don't really think that's what's happening here, but sure. Because I find all that really tiring as well. Mm-hmm. I love this thing where it's just like, there is no fucking roadmap for this. Everybody is just trying to make money in any way they can. So they are doing the wildest shit.
Yeah.
And you get so many movies that most of them are like this. They do not make any sense at all. They're dumb as shit. They have pretty small budgets and no recognizable actors. but they have so much goddamn charm and heart that you can't help but love watching them.
Yeah.
Because they're so fucking stupid, and most of the time they know that they're stupid.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I like that. I like that they're not like, hey, what about this? And wink, wink, nudge. Remember when that happened in the other movies? Like, no, fuck off.
Yeah. So we roll credits over the Madman Marz theme song. Not too many killers.
This is the dance jam.
Yep. Not too many killers have their own theme song, and I really do wish they had more. I think Freddy Krueger is the only other one I can think of.
I mean, you could argue that
Jason.
Michael Myers has his own.
Oh, he's got a theme. Alice Cooper.
And it's also
the Jason
the
Voorhees
sweetest
one.
theme.
Oh, it's the best.
Did he? Oh, he did the Man Behind the Mask.
Man Behind the Mask.
Right?
Yep. So yeah, that is it. Madman. It is a very, very unusual movie. It's
Thanksgiving camp. Thanksgiving gifted camp.
I know. We probably could have saved this one for Thanksgiving to sort of double up with our Thanksgiving feature. But
it did occur to me after. I'm like, well, this actually isn't a summer camp movie. It's a Thanksgiving gifted camp movie.
Yep.
And I don't know where you put that on the calendar.
Thanksgiving double feature with Blood Rage.
Oh Lord, we're gonna get to
that. We're doing Blood Rage. But yeah. So what are we doing next?
Well, we are going to be staying in Long Island for the next one in what is probably one of the most notorious horror films of all time, one of the most divisive horror films of all time, Sleepaway Camp.
Yes. Oh God.
And wow, do I love that movie, and holy shit, is it wild.
My God, I have been looking, since we started this fucking podcast, I have been looking forward to this episode. I could do 90 minutes on Aunt Martha alone.
And everyone's just going to be like, oh, because of the twist ending. I don't give a fuck about the ending.
No.
It's everything else in that movie that's really weird.
That's the thing, is everything in that movie lives in the shadow of the ending. That movie is fucked up from start to finish in so many weird ways that just nobody talks about. So,
it's also really awesome.
It's so great. Oh, I can't wait. So yeah, see us back here in 2 weeks when we give you Sleepaway Camp.